Eventually, the cast comes off. I get a call from Mr. McMahon. Mr. McMahon says, "We've got an idea," uh, and I just say yes. Um, and I go, and the idea is the Man's Man. Now, before we go any further, because you can start asking the questions now, all I know is if I'd have been of sound mind, no, because you're thinking I'm going to say I'd have
Oh,
turned that down.
oh, really?
Absolutely not. I would have made that work. I would have absolutely made that work because for some reason that was only the entirety of that episode of my life lasted 5 weeks, and yet more people bring that up,
It's
and
true.
it's always gets brought up. Whatever those vignettes were, they obviously got people's attention. The music that's never left. Like people still bring that up,
The
right?
song's
Whenever,
great. I gotta
right,
tell you, I listened to the song last night. The
right,
song's great. I have no issues
right.
with the song. Yeah.
And what I have done is I have watched those vignettes, and they're quite entertaining. And I would have made that work for me. I was happy. Now I look back and I see pictures of the outfit, but I didn't have to worry about how I looked as long as I could. Like I was doing step ups and whatever else. Um, just as long as I could go a bit in the ring, I hadn't got to worry about how I looked. As far as physically, the body issue wasn't a thing. I would have made that work without doubt, right? And now, once I'd earned their trust, if I'd have been of sound mind, I would have made that work as well as I could have done, and over time, that would have morphed into other things because even I wasn't good. It's obviously I wasn't good at the time, but I could still, if I'd have been of sound mind and have been of decent ability, I'd have made that work easily because I can do comedy, I can talk, I can be physical with my work. I would have made that work, and I would have made it work well, and it would have become something, and then it would have morphed like everything would have morphed into me being something else. So that's it. There's no other anything else. I'm happy to answer, but I would have. It doesn't matter whose idea it was, where it came from, what the idea was behind it, whether there's some other person's agenda as to why I was doing it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me because I would have made that work if I wasn't in the state that I was in.
And it wasn't just I mean, it was definitely a mental state, a psychological state, but also a physical state. Like you really
Yeah.
couldn't carry through that character the way you would have been able to do a couple years previous.
No, I couldn't. I wasn't. I had no right being in a ring. I had no right being around. That's the thing that follows me around a bit is everybody talks about how professional I was. Well, I wasn't professional for that time. I was everything but a professional then. For for the after the car wreck in not after the car wreck, 7 weeks after the car wreck in 1997. Once I started back on taking drugs again, I wasn't a good professional for the next, till 1999, till whenever I went back to WCW in 1999. I wasn't a good professional. I was anything. I was the furthest thing away from that. So, you know, that I was in no fit state. I shouldn't have been allowed near a ring. I shouldn't have been doing it. But if I would have been fine and I would have been not doing the stuff I was doing, I would have made that work. That simple.
There's a couple things that come to mind. Watching you on the documentary series on Peacock, the WWE documentary series Breaking Ground, when you're giving
Mm.
advice to young wrestlers, and even seeing a little snippet of Sami Zayn talking about when he came to WWE, that he didn't want to take the mask off, but just go with it, make it work. And
Yeah,
I've seen you give that advice as well. It seemed like
just make it work.
you
And just
carried that
anything.
experience to your coaching days too.
I've always believed that if you just try to make it work, give it your best, there's 99% chance it'll work to a degree. If you go in there with the wrong attitude or I don't want to do this, not going to work. It's not going to work. But if you just like win the pro wrestling business, if you want to be a real tough guy and go and do something else, go and do MMA, go to try and get to the Olympics, right? This job's full of people like that, and they don't want to. You've just got to embrace whatever you're given. It's well, you haven't got to. You can bluff your way through and pretending to be this or pretending to be that. I have none of that, right? I've got nothing to prove to anybody. I know the business I'm in. I've understood it from a teenage, age, from different when I was 15. But once I started full time when I was 16, the promoter I worked for gave me a serious talk. When he realized I wasn't leaving, just always remember the job you're in. You're going to come in it with nothing. You're going to leave it with nothing because there was no money in those days. You're going to be crippled up. And always remember it's a completely crooked business. Are you still in? Yes, please. So I've been under no illusions. I don't get these. I don't get a lot of this people going on about this or that. If you don't like it, nobody forces a gun to your head to do this job. You pick to be a wrestler. If you haven't figured out that there's all these things that come with it, maybe
might not be for you.
Might not be for you.
Right.
If you think you're going to get wrapped up in cotton wool, probably not for you. If you don't like flying, not for you. If you don't like driving, not for you. If you think you're going to get 8 hours sleep, it's not for you. If you think you're going to get your own way and win every day, it's not for you. If you want to, just if you understand the job you're in, yes, you can get. It's going to get. Can be a grind and it's frustrating, but that's all lines of work. But you choose to be in this job, you've got to try and do you should try and make the most of it. Otherwise, get out of it. Do something else, because there's a lot easier things to do than being in a wrestling job. So and there's a lot of people that would just do anything to get in this. I met people and I felt so sorry for them, because I young lads that when I was younger, there was I just remember this one lad used to come and hang around at the fairground where I used to wrestle, and just a poor lad. He wanted this just as much as I did, but he wasn't built for being a wrestler. He had 2.25 to 3 feet. He had big, thick bifocal glasses on. He wasn't made for this. He couldn't, especially in those days. It was a different game. You know what I mean? And I used to feel really bad for him. I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate that I can do the job that I want to do. So it's always, that's the outlook that I have on this. It's and anything that's come bad in is because I've caused that. So everybody's got their own way of looking at this. That's how I get through this. That's how I keep an open mind to it. I'm doing the job. I've never had to do a job since I left school that I didn't like. Right? I've done this. I've worked in a few nightclubs.
It's a beautiful thing, though.
I've bought and sold a few stolen VCR machines and whatever when I was younger.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do when I live, because I had a family and a house from being 18, and wrestling money I wasn't earning enough. But as soon as I got to a point where I was earning enough wrestling in my 20s, I didn't have to do that either. And so that was just on top of the wrestling. So anyway, I would have made the man's man thing work. And so anything else you want to add to that, please add it, and I'll answer it, because I think I've talked enough about all that.
I definitely.
That was some.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please.
So it's interesting to me that you look at that as not a failed gimmick at any point or failed creative. You look at it as
No,
if it wasn't you and you were looking from the outside, you would be saying, wow, that was that performer's inability at that time and place for whatever reason to really see that vision
I
through.
don't know about if I'd sit. I know it was this performer,
Right.
me. It was my inability to perform that. Right. If you'd have given that to the wrong kind of person, then it's one of the skills to this is knowing what you. Very few people have a good grasp on knowing what they really are. I'm fortunate with that. I know what I can and I know what I can't do. I know what I'm not good at. I could have made that work. So if you'd have given that to somebody who absolutely couldn't have made it work, then it would have been the wrong thing to do.
Sure.
But, and I'm sure there's all kinds of people with all kinds of stories that might think I was getting that because, that's why I stay out of this wrestling world and just dip my toe in to find out a basic idea of what's going on. And then I find out for myself if I need to, because there'll be somebody who'll probably say, oh,